Howdy, friendos! I'm Marshall, and today I got a special guest for you today. His name is Sprout. He's been playing chess for longer than I've known him, and I think, what, about 5, 6 years? He's a great friend. He's going to be getting some coaching today, and the best part is that Sprout also does some coaching on his own. He teaches you guys how to play chess, and I'm going to teach him how to play some better chess. And of course, I have people out there that are teaching me to play better chess. This is going to be a completely unedited coaching guide. There's not going to be too much interaction. Please feel free to pause the video at any moment whenever I ask a question or whenever our kind guest Sprout asks a question to see if you can't stop and figure it out for yourself or maybe come up with your own ideas. As this lesson plays out, you'll figure out more and more how this lesson works, but there are no wrong answers, there are no dumb questions. Enjoy the lesson. Sprout, I've known you a year, give or take a bit, a little bit
Yeah,
longer.
year and a half maybe.
Awesome. I think you were around 11, 1200, maybe close to 1300 when I first met you. Now you're sitting on what, chess.com, like 1500,
Yeah,
almost
I'm
1600.
almost 1500. I'm getting real close. I'm like 30 away right now, 30 points away. Yeah, when we first met each other, I think I was around 1150, somewhere in that range.
Okay. Yeah, I know it's been, I mean, 300, 400 rating points in a year at that rating range is awesome. My progress personally was slower, so I mean, take some pride in it. Um, I know you also coach chess for other people as well, which is super awesome, and I fully support it. Which is, I mean, one reason I like to coach people that coach people, and also I need to find myself a coach. So
Yeah, for sure.
it's
Yeah,
circle all the way
I
down.
love coaching beginners, like trying to help out, like pay it back for everything. Plus, I mean, when I'm coaching, it also helps me to reinforce things that I know and lessons that I've learned. So it's yeah, it's kind of a mutual beneficial arrangement.
I completely agree. So last a couple weeks ago we had a lesson and we talked about kind of tunnel visioning and like being short-sighted and maybe trying to instead of
Yep, that's
only
me.
having I'm guilty of it too, don't worry. But for example, like you see a king side attack and you put all your resources into a king side
Mhm.
attack and your opponent defends it because your opponents that you're rating can defend some attacks. And then you don't know what to do and you kind of blindly say, I have to keep going for the king side attack, and that's not the right idea in every situation. So today I got a handful of positions, some actually from your games, some positions from my games, and
Okay.
some positions from world championship matches and other masters as well, where there's not necessarily one best move every time. And even if there is, I'm going to be upfront and say, even if there's a best move in these positions, at our level of play, and even at the world championship stage level of play, it is not punishable. The difference is so minuscule that it doesn't matter, and they are stylistic choices. Um, and all the positions that I have to show for you today are stylistic choices, and the purpose is to find as many different ones as you can. It's about practicing, opening up your eyes to find new long-term ideas, rather than just your idea can be attack the king side, and that could be like, knight g4, h4, bishop g4, bishop f5. They're all things that attack the king side. That's not the point. The point is to expand thematic ideas. Like maybe one idea takes space. One idea makes a bishop for a knight trade that benefits you. One idea is attack the king side. Different thematic ideas, finding them, and then trying to find moves that correspond with those ideas. Does that sound interesting?
Yeah, definitely. Let's do it.
Solid. In that case, the first example, which you should see here, this was a game. Um, I want to say this was a game of yours, Sprout. And you played a fine move. I don't know if you remember what move you played here. Um, the
No,
position.
I don't remember.
Fair enough. Um, the position is. I don't want to say all the positions are relatively equal, and I'm not even going to tell you the evaluation. All of them. Some are marginally better for one side. Some are just winning for one side, but have many wins. But you had this position. And there's a lot of different ideas. I was talking with my other chess friends, and we were coming up with all the ballparking ideas, and we came up with a lot of ideas. So, what are some themes that you might come across here? What are some ways to try to push for a win in this position?
I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, I've got Connect Four going on, so I do have the space advantage. I mean, I think that I mean, I different ideas. I could either um push pawns on the queen side. Develop. I still have to develop my queen side pieces anyway, so I could just develop right now. I could go for trying to see if opening. Technically, I could open up the center. I could put a rook on e1 and then open up the center. I mean, being that black's king is still in the center.
Absolutely. So a couple ideas you've said already, and these ideas don't have any moves tied to them. I do want to start with that saying. You said developing the queen side. That could be your bishop, your knight, maybe taking space with pawns. The other idea you said was opening up the center of the board because, I mean, their king is in the center. I don't need to drill you on this. You know that their king's in the center. Opening up the center might be a good idea. That's another way of approaching this. Do you have any other candidate ideas of how to approach the position?
Well, the idea is that I've heard it said that typically you can look at what direction your pawns are pointing, and that'll tell you what side of the board that you should be attacking on. So, I mean, I could position, get more things positioned over on the king side. You know, basically. Get my queen over there, swing my dark squared bishop over to, I don't know if bishop to g5 is a little bit premature or not. Technically, they're just going to block with, I mean, a pawn or something, but it still could be a way to rip things open.
Mm-hmm. I like all of these ideas, and actually everything you've talked about is a completely viable choice. Would you like to know what you played in this position? You did have white and you did have this.
Sure, show me.
You played
I'm sure.
You played bishop g5, attacking the queen. And I don't remember what black played. It frankly irrelevant. f6 is probably fine. Moving their queen is fine.
More of that, yeah.
They can move the queen. I do like f6 a little bit more, but it has risk. You talked about the idea of opening up the center with e takes d, and I think this is another fantastic move. It's a style choice. You're opening up the center. Your knight might come in. You might put a rook here later. Great. Maybe you decide to put the rook here first, and then go for this.
The only thing I'm worried about when I sometimes I get into this, like, well, do I move the rook there first, or am I then giving my opponent too much time and I need to just seize the initiative right now?
That is a great question, and I think as far as figuring that out, it is just calculation. You have to say, when I play rook e1, how does my opponent respond? Or if I take, how does my opponent respond? And find the differences by calculation.
Yeah.
Intuitively here, they are the same type of idea. Like, the type of idea is I'm opening up the e-file and adding pressure. They're the same move thematically. The difference is how does your opponent respond?
Right, because if I play rook e1 first, I feel like they can just push to d5 and close up the center.
Absolutely. And that is the difference in calculation, which is not what we're here to talk about today, but it is a really good point. The other idea that I had in the idea was to go b4, and chase out the dark square bishop, and then maybe go b5, and just try to say, black's only two pieces that are active are the bishop and knight. What if we just bury them and put them in a box? Other friends came up with the idea to go bishop c2 in order to threaten to push d5 and play d5 and open up the center that way. Or bishop c2, and if black tries the short castle, you can go queen d3.
Yeah, exactly.
Knight d2 is a move, just developing the knight that way. Knight a3 is perfectly fine. If you said knight g5 instead of bishop g5, it's all fine. It's all fine, and these are just the different ideas. As long as you're making some progress, you're not going to find a bad move. That's a bit of warm-up. Don't worry, we're going to blitz through these because there's not much to look at. It's one position, and we're just going to talk about one position. So, into chapter 2. This was a position from one of my games. I had black, as that's the side we're looking at. I'm also delaying to give you a chance to look at all the position for a second before I just blitz in and ask you to find all the ideas. The material is equal. It's black to play. Not sure how comfortable are in this type of position, but there are a lot of ideas here. And my friends found a lot of ideas that I didn't, but it's fine.
I mean, in some ways, it reminds me of like a Caro-Kann position you could get to where you've got the open C file, swing a rook around to it, maybe get the queen over to b6. Not right now, though, because otherwise white's going to damage the kingside pawn structure. So.
Can I stop in this? You're naming specific moves before you're even coming up with ideas.
Right, I
I
see
mean,
what you're saying.
I get that that happens also very fast in a game of chess, and we can think about it faster than we can vocalize it.
Hmm.
But really try to take a step back and say, what are the big picture ideas in words, not specific moves, just big picture ideas.
Maybe queenside minority attack. Go for like queenside minority attack type ideas.
I like it. That's one idea.
Hmm.
That's another.
We could eventually try to. I was gonna say try to pawn break in the center eventually, but also from some of these positions that I played, I know you can push the e pawn, but it's not always a great idea. Maybe you could open it up with and start with putting a rook on the file to open up the center.
Trying to open up the center is another idea that could be worth playing for. Absolutely.
You could this would be kind of cheeky, I guess, but you could try to trap the dark squared bishop. Uh, I mean, or just ask a question of the bishop, get it to. I mean, that's a very short-term plan, but h6 and see if they move into the corner.
It absolutely is. And I don't think many good chess players will be going bishop h4. But if they do, fantastic. I'll take the win.
Mhm.
Um, Now, the question I'm going to add on to this, because there's a little bit more to add on to this. You talked about a queenside minority. You talked about the e5 pawn break. You
Mhm.
talked about going h6 to kick away the dark square bishop, and potentially trapping it, which doesn't happen. Nobody
Yeah,
good at chess is playing bishop h4. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Um,
but the main thing with that is my idea is just like right now the queen is kind of like either you got to break the pin on the queen with the bishop or with the bishop that's on d6 move it back to e7 or you got to kick away that bishop to give your queen the freedom to do something else.
Okay, I'm so happy you said everything I was gonna start getting in here. Your idea is you want to free up the queen from the defense of the knight. That way, if they
Right,
take the knight, your pawn structure isn't damaged. And I think that is a
right.
massive priority. Um, Also, the minority attack is fantastic, and I assume you want to free up the queen to either go on a minority
You
attack.
aid with the minority attack, yeah.
Fantastic. So these are some things you have to consider: is do you play rook b8 and just say the pin's not really scary? Do you play bishop e7 and break the pin that way, which is a different idea, or do you go h6 and try to punish your opponent for putting their bishop on maybe an awkward square? I mean, do they really want to take the knight on f6? um
Mhm.
I chose to play
Yeah,
h6 here. I'll tell
okay.
you, I chose
Yeah,
h6.
like I don't like moving the bishop to e7 because also the bishop is guarding e5. I mean, otherwise, just I don't. It just
Yes,
seems more passive.
I completely agree, and when you can, you should try and avoid playing passive, although I did consider bishop e7. But
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at e5 and saying, yeah, even if I can get a minority attack, I still might want to play e5. Or maybe my minority attack fails and they defend it well, and now I have to play in the center. Something you should consider is that whatever idea you see, like if you see a queenside minority attack here, assume that your opponent sees it. If I'm playing white here, my opponent for sure sees the fact that I have a minority attack on the way, potentially. They're going to already be preparing on how to deal with it. Good players are thinking all the same things you are, and what you have to bet on is that your idea is good, but it's so good that there's not a way to defend it. Or you have two ideas and you're attacking both of these ideas at the same time, and they can only defend one. Um, which is more in the case this game. I played h6. My opponent took on f6. I took with the queen, and I have the bishop pair, and later went on to win a nice game. But h6, their bishop has to go back, and it breaks the pin. And I would have played rook b8 and went for a minority attack. Um, Got another position, which this one's also from my game, and it's fairly similar. Fairly similar to the last one. You got a fianchetted bishop. White has some space. There's no pin though. Um, what are we thinking on this position? There's a lot of ways to play this. I had some fun in this one.
I mean, I mean, White's king still isn't castled. I'm not getting like a
Mhm.
like danger levels like, oh my god, we need to act now, or we're just gonna get trampled. But I think like so you could start slow. You could do a6, b5, start pushing pawns on the queen side.
Mhm.
Um, we could just, I mean, we could develop. We could just put a bishop on f5 and uh, develop those pieces first before any taking up space on the. But ultimately, I think in this situation, I'd like to keep my king side like intact in terms of like I definitely don't want to do anything to sacrifice that dragon bishop, and I don't want to mess with the king side pawn structure. So I'd start expanding on the queen side.
Expanding on the queen side is certainly one of the ideas, and getting your queen side developed with bishop f5 is another one. Actually gonna have to ask you to find one more idea here. One more big idea, big picture
More
idea,
idea. Oh,
another way.
pressure's on now.
Another way to try to play the position, another way to try to create something to happen. I'm not saying this position is equal or one side is better, but there are other ways to play.
Oh, let's see. I mean, that's kind of the main things that are sticking out to me. I mean, beyond that, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I think knight to c6 is a little bit. I mean, they'd wreck the pawn structure if they take, but also you get an open file for the rook. But that doesn't do a whole lot either.
I like knight c6. It's not my first move, but I consider knight c6. Um, to help along with this task, you can start asking yourself who has what advantages. You can start asking yourself who has more activity. In this case, it's very hard to
Well,
say. It's hard.
yeah,
You can ask yourself who has more control in the center.
yeah. White
That
for
one's
sure has more control. That one's easy.
white for sure. You could
Yeah.
start by saying, I want to get some of the center back.
Mhm.
That's certainly an idea. That is one way to play this. Um, you made the argument yourself. White's king is in the center, although it is very hard to keep White's king in the center, which I'm happy you said. Um, you said the idea knight c6, but they just trade it and damage the pawn structure. But
Yeah. We.
if
I
you're
mean.
playing,
Oh, go ahead.
your idea to play knight c6 is really very interesting because knight c6 attacks the center. And I personally really love the idea of saying White's king is in the center. And if you can destroy the center with tempo while White's king is still there, that is certainly a way to try to play this position. Destroy the center, fight back for it while the White king is still there. Bishop f5 doesn't do that. A6 isn't fighting for the center. Now White does just
Right.
castle. And you do have moves that try to exploit that already. And there are two moves, but there's one thematic idea here.
I mean, I don't know if it's worth at all at this point. I'm just looking at the pawn at the knight that's on uh, e5, and it's really only guarded by that pawn.
Yeah.
Maybe some sort of situation where you do a pawn break with c5, give up that pawn, like gambit it for a moment with the idea that you're going to get it back later, and then I just don't. The only thing I don't like about that is I don't, I wouldn't want to necessarily trade queens in this moment. But I guess I could always go like c5, decapture c5, maybe queen over to a5, just applying some pressure, and
Mhm.
then maybe also at that point I can, do something about unleashing my dragon bishop, trying to target the knight on e5.
I really like the idea of unleashing your dragon bishop, even though this isn't a dragon. I do want to
It's
clarify
not a
that it's
dragon,
not.
I just
But
play
I,
colored dragons, but
um,
yeah, so I'm unleashing the fianchettoed bishop.
I love this idea of unleashing the bishop and trying to get more out of it, especially if this d pawn for white vanishes the c5. And in fact, the only other thing stepping in your way is the black knight on f6, and in the best world, where would you want to put this knight? Don't care if it's undefended right now where it goes. Where would you want to put the knight? One move.
I mean, I'd love to be able to get it like on e5 or something. It's not going to go
Uh,
there right now. I'd like
do you
to.
mean e4?
Sorry, e4. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Um,
Good. So
yeah.
actually, you have all the pieces to the puzzle to actually find the move I did, and it wasn't your first consideration here. I would love to put my knight on e4. I would love to open up this dark square bishop, and there's only a few things actually stopping that from happening. I want you to take a look at c5 one more time and see if you can't facilitate all of those things.
Okay, so c5. Maybe c5. They take queen a5 stops pins the knight to the king.
Be more forcing.
Maybe
No, be more forcing. What happens if you trade
forcing.
queens? Because they only have two options if you take their queen. They take with the king or they take with the
either
knight.
gotta lose castling rights or they have to take with the knight.
Yep. Now, when they take with the knight, you now have access to knight e4.
Oh, sure. Yep.
And if they take with the king,
makes a lot of sense.
if they take with the king, they're not castling, and you can argue with it. So you kind of are already putting white in a bit of a pickle there if they, it's not necessarily a bad decision for them, but it's a decision they have to make, and both options have a negative, and that people don't like doing that. I played c5. It's the best move, and it's fine. By the way, another candidate move I had was knight f to d7, with the threat of trading the knights or winning a pawn if they don't trade. F to d7,
right?
Which is it's a very weird move, but it looked interesting. By the way, for what it's worth, bishop f5 is also completely fine. It's the difference in evaluation is like 0.1 or 0.2. It's perfectly fine. Same with knight c6 or knight b to d7, or if you really want to, I think there was queen to d6 here, just activating the queen that way, which was crazy.
That's not my first choice. Yeah.
Yeah, c6 b5 was an option. a6 b5 was an option. You get the idea. Knight h5 was one recommended to me from a friend. I'm like, knight h5 seems ridiculous. I would never, but it turns out it's okay. Next position. We've looked at all of our games and all of our mediocre chess, and now we are into the World Championship match in 1960 between Botvinnik and Tal. Botvinnik had the white pieces here. And just to give you, they both were stylistic players. Tal was known for, weird sacrifices and tempo and, lead your opponent into a deep, dark forest where 2 + 2 = 5. Botvinnik was very much the patriarch of Russian chess, where he said, no, I'm up a pawn. This is how chess should be played. It's good and proper. I'll win an endgame. Two opposing chess styles come face to face in a world championship match, and it is Botvinnik with the white pieces to move here. But I'm gonna pose the question to you here. It's white to move, and you have some different ideas you can go for.
I mean, Botvinnik, the whole thing that stands out. I mean, of course, like the pawn structure. Yeah, I wouldn't think he'd want to do anything too crazy to wreck his pawn structure. I mean, he's got a I think definitely the space advantage. His pawns are well supported by his minor pieces. Maybe with his style play, it would just be just try to make improvements on the position and just slowly ratchet up the pressure on his opponent.
That is exactly what Botvinnik tried to do. That awesome. By the way, I'm gonna tell you right now, Botvinnik didn't play the best move, but that is what Botvinnik did. So, what are some moves that try to ramp up pressure on the position or make it so you have like a small healthy advantage and you're gonna try to abuse that small, maybe minuscule advantage later on? What's a solid move, you could argue? I don't know if solid's the right word, but it's close.
I mean, so you got the pressure on me now. I don't know. I don't think they'd want to rip open the center right now. Maybe they could play d5, just taking up some more space. Maybe getting ready to maybe even try to push more pawns on the queen side. Yeah, just maybe just continuing to try to get the. They can't develop the bishop right now either because it's performing a job of guarding the pawn from the queen. Maybe just slowly expanding then on the queen side.
I love that. By the way, you're playing exactly like Botvinnik would have. He played d5 in this position. In d5 with the idea to close up the position and try to argue, hey, Black, you don't have any space. It's hard to maneuver your pieces. You don't have any good sacrifices. I'll eventually use this space advantage and use that to create a win. That is an idea. But that's not the only way to play the position. And in fact, it's not the best move, where at an engine level, d5 is definitely a mistake. And at world championship level, nowadays, maybe. But back in 1960, d5 was probably quite viable, but nowadays this position will never be reached again. Because there's a move here that kind of shows why White has a crazy position, and it's just damning how fun this position is.
I mean, I'm just seeing if there's a way right now to harass the queen. Like you could jump, but I don't know. I need to look at knight a4 just to harass the queen. You'd imagine the queen probably slides into a6 in that position. I don't know. I also like. I mean, I'd like to get the bishop doing the dark squared bishop actually doing a little bit more than just guarding the b pawn.
I agree. So yeah, chasing off the black queen in order to maneuver the dark square bishop is one of White's ideas. It's a very strong one. Knight a4 isn't necessarily the best way to go about this, as the knight on a4 is kind of poorly placed. But you do have other methods of trying to attempt this.
Yeah, I mean, just trying to see. Otherwise, I don't know if it's worth it just allowing the queen to like come in. Like develop the bishop to e3 and say I'm not scared of the queen coming in, and trying to or developing it to, I don't know. I'm just wondering because if letting the queen come in, take b2, it ends up being a little bit of a poison pawn. If there's any way to like just use it to instantly activate the rook and get an open file.
I like this idea. The problem is if queen takes b2, there is a fork between the rook and the knight, and it's hard to defend both at once. In one move. You could preemptively play a move that guards maybe you guard the knight preemptively. Or maybe you move the knight out of the way preemptively, and you go, I don't know, like knight to e2 here, with the idea to then move the dark square bishop. I'm not saying that's a good move. You hang the e4 pawn if you move the knight, which is why it's not good. But it's an idea, maybe you play rook e1 to prepare knight e2, which is crazy, and still doesn't work. But these are definitely ways to approach that problem that are not awful. There is another very strong move here that I mean, I'm sure Botvinnik saw it. He was just not confident to play it. And to be fair, I wouldn't be confident to play the best move in this position. White has a advantage in space in the center, do they not? They have a really good fianchettoed bishop, as does Black. You could argue and say that White has 2 knights, and Black has like 1.5 knights. Black's knights aren't as good. You could argue the queen is actually a liability on b6 for Black. And you can already exploit this and just demand control over the center with White completely.
I mean, is it time to rip open the center with White? I mean, at the same time...
Technically, yeah, yes. But there's a good way, there's a right way, and there's a wrong way.
I mean, the two moves that kind of force a situation to happen right now would either be c5 or d takes e5.
Mhm. Um,
Let me- I mean, c5. You'd imagine they would be compelled to recapture with their d pawn,
yes, I would imagine that makes sense.
but then in the resulting position, well, okay. I mean, I was gonna say like you're down a pawn. I feel like in
No,
that
why are you
position,
down a
but
pawn?
also
Wait, why are you down a
well,
pawn? What are you calculating? C5
c5, d
takes.
captures, d takes, and then oh yeah, okay, and then and then don't d takes c5 again, right? Or do
Why
we?
C5? Why C5? That pawn's guarded.
Okay,
Why don't you
oh
take
okay.
E5?
The other side take on e5, right?
Yeah. And so a position like this
Okay,
is all
yeah,
of
and
a
then
sudden Black's queen just got blocked by their own pawn. Haha.
mhm,
This pawn on E5 is a monster threat. They have to move the knight again, and frankly, I don't want to move this knight if I have black. There's nowhere good to put it. Oh no,
right.
knight E8. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean that's it. Because otherwise, if they move it to h5, it's just getting trapped over there.
mhm. Um, this is a very strong way to play. And you can see it's completely entirely different from the idea of playing d5 and say I have a small advantage. Which, by the way, if you play d5, it is like point 0.1 different or point 0.2 different than playing c5, but c5 objectively is better here by a pretty
Hmm.
strong margin. Um, but if you play d5 at our level, the two moves are basically the same in evaluation. It's just a style choice. c5 and shatter the center and go after your opponent, or d5 and play a long game and you have a marginal advantage that you'll have
Hmm.
to convert later on. Um, as well as the other moves mentioned, like you queen c2, rook e1, b3 is a little bit dangerous, but it probably can be played. Knight to d2 is something I briefly considered and kind of threw out the window. You can even take on e5 and just say I'm uncomfortable with the tension. I know I'm completely equal after d takes e5, but I'm
Hmm.
uncomfortable and I don't know how to continue. This solves a lot of your complications if you're uncomfortable. Um, I got another one by Botvinnik though. This one was Botvinnik Capablanca in 1938, and Botvinnik did play the best move this time objectively, but to say it's the best move is quite a stretch. I looked with an engine with some friends, and we came to find like 10 candidate moves over like 5 different ideas thematically. It's a very fun position, even though it might not look like it at first. I'll let you have a go with the white pieces.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, see, I always doubt myself going into these with you because I'm like, you know what? I've been, as you know, I used to play more positional with lots of Jabava London Queen Pawn openings, and then you got me to change things up, and now I've really enjoyed just ripping things open and
Yeah.
just tactics above all. But I feel like that's not always the right tact. Right now, I feel like the bishop, the dark square bishop on our side is doing absolutely nothing. I don't know about like just trying to move it out of the way over to uh, e3, so that and maybe trying to swing the other rook around, then starting to push the a pawn, trying to do something over there on the queen side. Um, Otherwise, I guess
Good idea.
we could maneuver the knight over to g3 so that eventually we can do a e pawn push, move a rook there, and just try to open up the e file and claim that we have better control over it.
I think those are two very different ideas, and I'm super happy you mentioned two different ideas thematically. You
Um,
said something about like going to the queen side and like creating play over there, which makes sense. You have a semi-open B file. You have a pawn that can be used as a lever. Your bishop's over there and it needs a job. But also the idea to push
yeah,
the e pawn is an entirely different approach, is it not? Like all of a sudden the
yeah,
queen side, who needs that? I want to play e4. I want to play
yeah.
e5. I want to get going. Um, those are
Otherwise, I'd
really
say
the
maybe
two
like going
ideas.
after the backwards pawn on d5. But the problem there, like at the moment, that pawn is very well defended.
Yes.
But maybe at some point.
The best way to go after that pawn is by playing e4.
Mhm.
So, now that you have
Right,
two
and then as soon as
ideas,
and as soon as you do e4, if you know the pawn captures, then it just makes the other pawn on e4 isolated.
yeah, it makes the e4 pawn isolated. It makes your
Or
pass, your
sorry, the
d pawn
c4.
pass.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You're pointing out all these positional factors, and that's exactly what we're going for here. And now that you have a couple ideas, let's find a candidate move that helps in whichever plan you think is better, whether it's going for the e4 pawn break or the queenside play. Find a candidate move to go for it.
Just feel like for me looking at this, like we're talking about our opponents kind of being able to like, okay, what are they doing? You know, what's Sprout doing moving around these? So I feel like doing like trying to open up the B file and play for that and swing things around. I feel like it might be faster in terms of like we just get moving quicker if we played a move like knight to g3 and then swung a rook around to the e file and got ready to push e3 to e4. I mean, queen's already pointed at at e4. If we
Yeah.
can just get a little bit more
Oomph.
support.
Yeah, how do you add more support for breaking e4? Like, what's like just a list of moves you can do to help support e4? All of them. Like, just blitz out ideas. Doesn't move order doesn't matter yet. That's what
Yeah,
calculation is for.
knight g3, rook,
Mm-hmm.
one of them to e1, probably rook f to e1, because
Sure.
otherwise maybe the pawn on on a4 gets a little weak and can fall.
Sure.
Um, let's
Also.
see. Maybe if you really wanted to, you could maybe play f3, just because also f3 before pushing e4, possibly the f file opens up and suddenly you've got a rook sitting on it.
Well, hold up. You said something about this F rook maybe coming over, and if this
Yeah,
F pawn takes,
maybe we leave the f rook where it is and instead play rook a to e1 instead, and then like I said, f3, e4, knight g3, all those moves would kind of support the e4 pawn push.
so all those moves you suggested got played in some order. Rook A to
Okay.
E1 was played here.
Oh, nice.
It's a really strong move, and then knight G3, and then
Hmm.
F3, and then E4, and then E5, and you get the point. What White is
Oh
trying
yeah,
to do.
sure.
White is trying to blast out, but you can see how they're trying to play for a win. The
Hmm.
execution is less important. The game is really pretty. I highly recommend looking this one up. It's bought Vidic Capablanca, 1938. You will find it. Uh, it is a gorgeous game, but I don't know if you remember looking at this position maybe 2, 3, 5 minutes ago, and your first instinct was probably not Rook A to E1.
Oh no, my
I,
first instinct was doing something on the queen side, and then it's like, oh, but wait.
it's yeah, when you stop and pause and look at it, it's like, man, is it enough? And it's hard to justify it being enough.
Hmm.
And coming up with a secondary idea is important, and just taking a moment to stop and pause here. And I'm not saying that you would tunnel vision here because this is the point where I think all chess players stop and say, "What the hell do I do?" Uh, um, but this is, I mean, you could potentially be in a spot where you are just tunnel visioning moves here and just be like, all right, rook f to b1, let's go. That's easy. And
Hmm.
that's not a great move here. Oh, by the way, the other secondary ideas and what is crazy to me is bishop a3 is almost completely equal with rook a to e1. Even
Oh
though
wow, it is.
Bishop a3 is like, yeah, but what's this bishop doing here? The thing is, the
Right.
position is so, I don't want to say it's dry and boring because it's not. The thing is nobody's threatening anything immediately. Nobody has any immediate threats. The problem when you play bishop a3, the next move is then going to be rook a to e1, and it doesn't matter. You have all the same
Yeah.
ideas, and the bishop didn't get worse. It didn't get better. It didn't get worse. Um, let's look at another one from one of your games, I think. Yeah, this was a position for one of your games. You played your move very quickly, and thankfully, you played one of the correct moves. So, good job. You actually played the best move according to the engine, but the two candidate moves I was looking at, although there's three, are all very close in evaluation. I'll let you have a go. You have the black pieces again.
I hate this because I can't. How long ago was this? Was it like last week or a couple weeks
Oh,
ago? I should
we
remember.
we talked
Or is
about doing this lesson. I looked through your games, and you had played this like 3 hours after we had talked about
oh,
doing this
okay.
lesson.
It's one of those games. Okay.
Yep.
This was
Uh,
right. This was from before I did that Lee Chess tournament. So let's see. Uh, I mean, I I didn't sack the rook in this. Like, no, there's no way. I mean, the candidates seem to be either bring the bishop back, which seems absolutely crazy, or just move the rook. Maybe did I play something like rook to d8?
you played rook d8.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And you said the other candidate moves bishop g7. Which one of these moves is safer? Which one of these moves carries less potential tactical risk?
For me, less risk.
Yeah.
I mean, bishop back. See, but the problem, the bishop queen battery is just so good. Like, why would I move it back to, Plus, then it's gonna get.
Well,
I
you
mean,
move
I
it back
guess.
because you're in time pressure and you don't want to deal with tactical complications. And,
Yeah,
you want to
but
simplify a little bit more.
I'm a dummy when it comes to time pressure. I don't acknowledge these things. So, but no,
Yeah,
I hear you.
no,
I hear you. The like under time pressure, the safe move is just bring the bishop back. Bishops get traded.
you don't
And
really
you don't
have
have
an
to.
advantage, but there's
Yeah,
low risk.
right. Low
Um,
risk.
the more ambitious move is rook to d8, and by the way, they're completely equal. And there's a third move that's completely equal that I showed it to everybody who I talked about this position, and they're like, "Yeah, nobody plays that." Um, I'll give you a shot if you want, but it's a very stupid move. It's like, yeah, that makes sense, but it's dumb. Um,
Just tell me what is it?
it's
What
rookie.
dumb
It's
move is
rook
it?
to e8. You don't go to d8, you go to
No,
e8.
no. Okay,
And
yeah.
the
I mean,
idea is
technically,
push the e
yes. You're not.
pawn.
You're saving your rook, but no. It just seems a lot more
Exactly.
natural to like line that rook up with the queen. I mean, get
Yeah,
try
exactly.
try to see if we can get some sort of discovery attack going. And I mean, it's one of these things where like, yeah, the light squared bishop is still at home blocking the connection of the rooks, but it doesn't matter because our queen covers d8, so that rook is safe there.
Exactly. Rook e8, the engine pointing out as being completely equal to rook d8 and bishop g7, practically speaking, is crazy. But if you play it, you're not going to lose any points. It's perfectly fine, I guess. It's
I
weird,
also
though.
don't think it's like it's not making a threat or implying a threat or anything.
Oh, it
Like,
is.
so it's
It
well,
is. It's
okay, it
implying you're
is,
going to
but
push the e
yeah,
pawn.
you're gonna push yeah, you're gonna push. Yeah, I know. Okay, so this I think just goes down to like my taste, my style. Like,
Yes.
I like it whenever I can like X-ray a high value piece or something like that and line it up. Um, I'm gonna do that. So yeah, rook d8 just seemed really natural here.
That's perfectly fine. It's a perfectly fine move. There's nothing bad I can say about it. I just thought this was a position you got where you had the choice of being tactical and fine or super safe and fine, or I don't know. I was also looking at the immediate bishop a6 and it doesn't work, but yeah. um, a position where like the moves are drastically different play styles, and finding all of them. I got two more examples if you got time for it. I know we're
Yeah, I've
blitzing through
got
these
time.
pretty quick.
Yeah,
Cool.
let's do it.
This game was played by one player I've never heard of, and the player I have heard of, which had the black pieces. The first player with white was Luigi Miliana against Edgar Colley. I believe it was
I've
Edgar
heard of
Colley.
Edgar Colley, but I've never heard of Luigi. Yeah.
That's probably because he lost a lot of his games against these types of players.
Okay.
But it's black to play. You now have Colley with the black pieces. And I'll be honest with you, I'm looking at this position and I do not remember what was played and I don't remember what the best move was. So I'm also going to do the same thing and come up with a whole string of ideas myself here on the fly.
Okay. I kind of love the pawn snake or whatever we're calling that center structure from black here in this particular situation because it's like it's such a thorn for white to deal with like that. But at the same time, I feel like it's also kind of stifling for black as well at this point because we have to try to maneuver some pieces around. I mean,
Mhm.
I'd have to imagine the first priority for black is going to be getting castled. Um,
Potentially.
yeah,
That's one
okay,
idea.
potentially. That's what we're here to discuss, you know.
That is exactly it. Yep.
And
Um,
uh,
what other ideas might you have immediately? How can you try to come up with some long-term
I
ideas? A few.
I don't know what it is. It's probably a failing of mine. Anytime I see like my opponent that has a fianchettoed bishop and like a pawn pushed in front of it, I just want to push like my A or H pawn up the board and just try to smash through. But
Yeah, trying to play on the queen side here is an idea.
yeah, um,
Sure. I like a5. I do. I like
yeah,
a5.
it's tough because just this isn't and I mean it's a good game to review because this isn't the type of position that I'd really enjoy playing, but sometimes you get those positions, you know.
Naturally.
So um
Yeah.
I mean I'd go for the queen side only because I'm a wuss and I'm afraid to like break things like if I castle king side I don't necessarily want to do much on that side. Maybe well maybe I could on the other hand because the center is completely closed off, so maybe I could like
Mhm.
maybe I could shift something things around on the king side, try to push pawns over on that side instead. Um,
I
it
I really like the king side attack attempt.
yeah, because it seems like either way, our king isn't in immediate danger, you know?
Mhm. Um, so you had an idea to try to obliterate the queen side with a5, a4, using the rook as support and maybe other pieces in
Mm,
some future. Love that
yeah,
idea. Just shatter the queen side pawn structure and say you're better on the king side and center. And great, you have an advantage and your opponent doesn't. Another idea is playing for a king side attack here. And I will say this idea is screaming at me as someone who occasionally plays a King's Indian attack. There is a move I want to play here.
F4, or sorry, F5.
Hell yeah, I want to play f5.
Right,
And it doesn't work yet. I'll tell you right now, it tactically doesn't work yet, but you can make it so f5 is a much better move by playing one move first.
we would castle, then you got a
Just
rook
castle.
on the F file.
It's castle, you got a rook on the f file, and congrats. You're taking away white's central pawn. Because the e4 pawn does a lot for white about keeping them safe. But if they don't have it, you have how many pawns in the center? All of them? Yeah, basically.
Right, yeah,
Uh, you start a kingside attack and you set yourself your king's not in danger. That being said, bishop d7, a5 is completely reasonable. Um, and there are a handful of lines where even here, the move knight g4 in order to play knight f6 and reroute your black knight back to the center is also a viable idea. You just simply say, my knight's on the wrong side of the board. I need the knight back to the center with knight f6. Also, knight g8. Not that I would, but you can play knight
you
g8.
could, but yeah.
But yeah, maybe don't. It's absolutely a move here, and it's another way to play the position.
Yeah, if I
I
had to look at both those ideas, like now that we've talked about them, I do think I like the the king side attack better because we can just get it underway so much more quickly. If we start pushing the a pawn down the board, it's like slow moving. It's like it gives our opponent time to try to adjust, and I feel like the king side attack is a little more forcing. They don't have as much time to prepare for it because it's happening like two moves.
exactly. Also, there's worlds where once you play f5 and the e pawn vanishes, you can then play d5 and continue in the center. It's not impossible to connect that chain of thought and really start getting into some deep calculation. Um, but that's enough of do we know we're not here about deep calculation. We're here about candidate ideas. I got one more position. This was played between Edgar Colley and his opponent Grunfeld with the black pieces. No, this wasn't a Grunfeld. The pawn's still on
It was not.
d6. It's a shame. uh, but you do have the white pieces against Grunfeld here, and boy, oh boy, this is a position. And Kali showed you why he's Kali and why everyone knows his name nowadays. But White has a lot of candidates here.
Mhm. I mean, if White does nothing, obviously you got the Queen Bishop battery coming in. But granted, also, yeah, I'm just looking at kind of what we have available to us. Uh, I'm just trying to see if there's any room for just a like some sort of crazy push Harry, break in, or do some crazy sacrifices to break in on the king's side and move the queen quickly over and whatnot. It's
Your
kind of crazy though. Like,
your intuition though is saying something is happening with the Black King, and if your intuition is telling you, you should try to find a couple different ideas to make it happen. And even if you come back and say, "I got nothing, I need to just do something different," that's fine. Give yourself a
I
couple
mean,
different candidate options to go after the king if that's what your intuition is saying.
I mean, if we got rid of the knight over by the king, the problem is they'll just swing another knight in there. So it's not like pushing, doing d5 to open up the scope of the bishop to take out the knight. Although, I mean, also d5 is probably not horrible because I mean after pawn takes, I mean, hmm. Sorry, I'm just calculating everything. Or trying to
Absolutely.
anyway.
This position is the fun one to
There's a lot
calculate.
going on here. Like I feel like this is a really charged position.
It is.
Um, that diagonal, how they're slicing through the A8 H1 diagonal is super annoying because if that wasn't going on, I wouldn't mind like almost if our queen was on the F file somehow. Um, Otherwise, maybe swing. I don't know if it's worth putting the other rook on the D file first, and then preparing to push the D pawn, or if we don't even need to worry about it. I mean, otherwise, I'm also seeing that there's kind of maybe there could be a. Oh, you know what? Second, I don't think it works. I'm just noticing that. That the knight on d7 and the rook on e8 are on the same light diagonal there. Trying to wonder if there's any way to exploit that, but it doesn't appear at the moment.
Fantastic. I like everything that you've said, and this one does unfortunately require some calculation no matter what you play. Let's start with a simple thing. Let's say you play a lemon, a
Mm,
nothing move. Black has the option to play bishop g2, and for sake of
yep.
argument, Black's probably going to play that unless you defend it or do something more threatening,
Right.
probably.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so your options are either do something more threatening or somehow deal with G2. Um, those are kind of your options. So this position
Yeah.
gets easier when you consider that those are your two options. The problem is finding something more threatening, and do you want to go backwards to defend G2?
I mean, also bishop takes g2. Okay. I mean, at the moment, like I'm not seeing a checkmate there. I mean, the bishop could carry on. Like if our knight wasn't on g3, maybe you could see a scenario where the bishop just barrels all the way through, gets over to the corner, and then the queen comes in to give checkmate or something like that. But that's just not possible. Although no, it is. Well, no, all of our knights are doing an amazing job of defending the light squares over there. Aside from there could also be a situation where, okay, bishop captures on g2, great, and then maybe we play d5 and just seal things up and say, okay, well, I'm going to take that bishop, you can't defend it.
I love it. They're like, oh, if they play bishop g2, I'll just go d5 and win their bishop. I love you for that. I love that idea. That is how you. That's one way to set traps, by the way. So good shit. There's no better way to say it. I'll be honest, I didn't even think about the idea of trapping the bishop if it takes on g2. That wasn't even a candidate for me, but it's absolutely a way to play this position.
I'm thinking it might be safer if I'm trying to trap it by playing f3 instead, because f3 is defended 2 different ways. So I don't know. Potato, potato.
Maybe. Potato, potato. Yeah. I will say your intuition that says the Black King is in danger was very spot on. But there are like 5 candidate moves here that are all basically equal, and White is winning this position by force. Your candidate moves that are all approximately equal are f3, knight f3, d5, queen f1, which is the worst of those, and then the stunner, knight takes f7.
Knight takes f7. Oh god.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, defend your e-pawn. And also I got a dark square bishop, and I got a light square bishop, and I got another knight, and knight takes f7 is what got played, and Grunfeld succumbed to the pressure because you can't defend that, really. Those are all the positions I have. You found some great resources that I didn't consider, and you got a lot of them. This was really just practice anyway, to get you in the habit of finding more than just one idea or trying to play for more than one type of advantage. How do you feel about this idea?
This was really cool. No, I really enjoyed just also I just saw another possible move. Would it be possible to do knight takes on e6, because then after takes, your queen's getting in there, you're giving check, oh shoot, no, the knights defend themselves. But
so knight e6 is, and I haven't turned on engine, by the way.
No, it doesn't work.
It's probably very similar because you're still getting 2 pawns for the knight. The difference is that you haven't lured their king to f7, which might be a negative.
Right. Yep, you're right. No,
that being said,
I think
it could be fine.
I really enjoyed this, honestly, because you're right. I mean, I think my biggest issue right now is the tunnel vision, where I don't look at enough candidate moves or enough like calculations of, like when we started even, I wasn't giving necessarily the ideas. I was just like, well, move this piece here, move this piece there, rather than like, broader themes or ideas. So that's something I need to get way better at. So I appreciate you coming up with this course idea.
Well, guys, that was the chess lesson with Sprout. I did have to cut it there. A lot of what we went on was just a whole bunch of rambling, a little bit of back and forth. But that is how I coach players in chess. That lesson was a little bit hurried. Sprout was a little bit on a time crunch, and I also wanted to get to that as quick as I could. That was a lot of just practice and such, but a lot of my lessons do go that way. If you are interested in your own chess coaching, feel free to leave me a comment, DM me, find me anywhere, check out the website, links below, and also please go check out Sprout. He makes awesome chess content. He is pretty good at chess. I will say he is a fantastic person to work with, and I've watched him coach other players. He is a pretty solid chess coach. He really knows what he's talking about. So please give him all the love that you're giving me here. Anyway, hope to see you guys in the future soon. Have a good night.